everyone, and welcome to IGN Live here at Gamescom 2018. We are here to talk about a game called Stellaris Console Edition. What's up, Daniel? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. I'm here to talk about Stellaris, the console edition. And for the people who are not aware of what Stellaris is.
Because it's currently on PC, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Came out a few years ago.
Yeah. We already have a PC version, and now we're releasing a console edition. So it's the first time ever that you're gonna see a grand strategy game on a console platform.
Yes, which is huge. So why don't you explain for those at home just like what exactly is a grand strategy game?
Yeah, absolutely. A grand strategy game is a game in which you play as a nation over several of hundreds of years, in-game years. And you have to use...
Thanks for the clarification.
You know, you have to use all your tools that you usually have at your disposal as a nation, right? You have to consider your economy, your military, internal politics, diplomacy, of course.
So it's like a really intense RPG, except you are role-playing like God, like the highest entity.
Well, in some senses, I guess you could actually say it like that, because you know, it's a strategy game, but a grand strategy game is something that's sort of unique to Paradox. Because that's sort of what we're famous for, is the grand strategy games. So, you know, strategy games are, you know, the games that are about the puzzles and about, you know, figuring out the mechanics and how to play the games more efficiently and stuff like that. But I think that we do differently in Paradox, is that we actually care a lot about the player stories. So the strategy elements are equally important as the player stories are.
Yeah, so we'll start with strategy elements and then we'll go to player stories.
Yeah.
So again, just because so many people are going to be experiencing this genre for the first time now that it's on console, can you explain some of those strategies that come into play when you're playing this game?
Yeah. I mean, it being a strategy game, it means like you have to, it's about decisions and using your resources efficiently, basically. So in this game, one of the first things you would do is you would create your species.
Okay. So it's not even, you don't have to be human. You could literally be anything.
No, absolutely not. You can choose anything. And that's the important bit, just like starting off with the player stories.
Yeah.
Because like you deciding what type of empire you're creating is a huge part of Stellaris. For example, like you can create, there's 7 different types of phenotypes. And I think each phenotype has roughly like 15 to 17 portraits or something like that.
Wow. So is each, are the phenotypes, I'm assuming you mean the different species?
Yeah, they can be like archetypes of species, like, you know, avians, birds.
Okay, so does each species have different elements that make them unique versus just being like a different skin?
That's the great thing, you actually get to choose that. So the portraits you choose are just for appearance, but you also select like traits. So you can be like strong or intelligent, like things like that. There's a multitude of different traits you can select from. And when you create your empire, you also select their ethics and their civics, which is sort of, you know, the beliefs and how your empire is governed. So for example, you could be, because we don't want to do like obvious sort of morality in Stellaris either. It's like a lot of up to interpretation. So you can, for example, be playing like these super cute space foxes, but they're like actually like terrible creatures that like attack everyone and just want to destroy everything.
Talk about deceptive, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've created our empire.
Yeah.
Now what's the next step?
Yeah. Stellaris is a grand strategy game that is all about the 4X elements as well. So a huge portion of Stellaris is about exploration. So one of the first things you do when you go into the game is that you start off in a small portion of the galaxy.
So is this what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, exactly what we're seeing on the screen.
Yeah.
So each time you start a new game with your empire, the galaxy is randomly generated, and there's a number of settings of what kind of galaxy you want to play on. So each playthrough will be different. But when you start off, you're starting off in a small portion of the galaxy, like we're seeing here on the screen, and then you usually start by selecting your science ships and then exploring and surveying the areas around you. Because when you survey planets, then you'll figure out what type of resources might be, you know, hidden on them. And then it's up to you to like sort of decide where you want to exploit these resources. Because obviously you want a larger economy to get more resources to build your empire larger and more powerful.
So how do you find planets to survey?
You will find them they will be visible on the map all the time.
Okay, so you just go up and click on it.
Yeah, so for example, what we're seeing here on the map is that we're seeing your starting home system, and then you go out to the map and you can see lots of star systems nearby. So you can just select your science ship and go to a system and then survey it. You can also go into the system and look at the planets in that system, even though you haven't surveyed them.
I didn't even think about that, you are in charge of a whole galaxy, not even what is that? Oh my gosh, I should know science.
Space Empire.
Yes.
Well, that's what you're playing here, but...
Wow. So you mentioned science ships. Are there other types of ships? Like, are there ships for combat?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have the construction ships that are the things that build the stations to gather your resources, and you can use your resources, to build up your planets or build a large military fleet, depending on what you want to do. Because you decide what you want to do, but you obviously also need to react to what's happening in the game. So, if later in the game you discover and come in contact with another AI empire, I mean, they might not be so friendly, and in that case, it might be good to build up a fleet to be able to defend yourself.
Gotcha.
Or vice versa, if you decide to
So you can actually, so you do engage in strategic combat when you come up with other empire, or come up against other empires.
Absolutely. So you can send your fleets into another star system with a hostile fleet, and then they'll engage. And we have these like cool space battles where you see the ships like shooting at each other and stuff.
So how deep does this game go as far as if you find a planet or you survey the planet and you decide, okay, let's adopt this planet into our empire, then what? Like, have you succeeded? The planet's just hanging out and it's yours now, or is there upkeep? Like, what's the deal?
It depends on the type of planet. Let's say you just have an asteroid that has minerals on it.
Okay.
In that case, you just build a mining station around it, and it just gathers those resources, and every month you get income.
You get more resources.
Yeah. Because this is not a turn-based game. I'm not sure I mentioned that before. It's a possible real-time game. Which means that the turns just keep ticking all the time. It's like the days just keep ticking if you're unpaused.
So is there a pause button? I was just going to ask that, because there seems to be a lot of elements, and I'm sure we've only scratched the surface, but even just during our conversation, there's like a lot to keep track of.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there is a pause button.
Yeah, you can adjust the speeds as well, the game speed.
Oh, okay. What's like an average speed? Like how fast? I mean, because we're really looking at things on a granular scale. So like how many days?
I think
like human days?
1 day is 1 second.
Oh right man, that's really fast.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were going to say it was that fast.
No.
Okay.
So you mostly play the game over several years. Like it maybe takes like 130 years to get into the late game or the early late game.
How many like player hours is that? So if I was just like a pretty new player, how many hours have I played?
I would think that you get around 25 years per hour, maybe.
Okay.
I should have remembered this number, but right now I can't. But
so
I think that's about right.
A few hundred hours, you're still kind of new.
Like definitely. I mean, you're probably not like gonna keep playing the same campaign all over. It's very likely that people like restart and try something new, because it's just about like enjoying the game.
I was just gonna ask about that. So player stories. What is there a campaign, or this is pure exploration?
This is all just procedurally generated, randomly generated. So the only thing that's like that exists as a story is that we have sort of storylets and narrative that's in the game, but it's not tied to any main story or anything like that. So the story that you experience is a player story. It's not a designer story.
Got it. That's actually kind of beautiful, like that you are so in control of this.
Yeah.
So like we said earlier, this came out on PC in 2016. Are fans of the PC version going to be super familiar with this console edition? Are they like pretty one-to-one, or did you guys have to change anything?
We haven't changed, like the player experience is going to be the same. We have basically not changed anything with the game balance or the game numbers or the mechanics or anything like that. There's only been some minor adjustments to make it work on the console. The biggest change being like every interface has been remade to work with the gamepad.
So why did you and your team decide that you wanted to bring this genre to console? I mean, there must be a reason why it hasn't done that yet.
I mean, we're known to, our grand strategy games are known to be very like deep and complex strategy games. So like it seems like a very daunting task to think about trying to translate it into a gamepad at first. So I think there's been some sort of, first of all, we haven't had that much experience with the console market in general. Because we've mainly been developing for the PC.
Definitely.
So that combination with the fact that that might have seemed like a daunting task. But when we found our partners with Tantalus Media, then it became a lot easier for us to get that ball rolling, so to speak. And in partnership with them, we actually got a pretty good game out, I think.
Exciting.
I'm really excited with how well the controls actually work.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. That must be. Does it feel the same on the PC and the console? Like when you're playing?
Depends on how you ask the question. It's definitely like same, but it's also a little bit different.
Same but different.
Yeah, like in terms of like the strategy and stuff, it's the same because you think about the game the same. It's just a little bit different in how you play it.
Were there any mechanics that you and your team had to adjust while you were kind of getting this ready for console? Like anything that worked great on PC, but once you got on console was either unintuitive or kind of clunky?
I mean, the absolutely biggest challenge has been translating the sort of interactions and the interface to work on a gamepad, because that's why every interface has been remade. But I think because we've worked on that a lot, there's been a lot of iteration with it, like especially like selection cursors and the menus and making everything like efficient and intuitive. But other than that, there's also been a lot of work done with performance and stability to make it work.
Yeah. So last question for you, since so many console players, again, are going to be so new to this genre, do you have any hard and fast advice for them so that they aren't too intimidated out of the gate?
I think a lot of, because that's a question that a lot of players get for the PC game as well. It's like, it's very difficult to sometimes get into the games, but once you get in, you get hooked. So you get so much value for the time you're spending, because there's people who spend thousands of hours in our games. And every time we release a new DLC, we just keep adding free updates as well. So even if you don't purchasing any DLCs, you're always getting new content, and there's more stuff to play.
So kind of just don't be intimidated, just dive right in.
Look at like YouTube videos. That's a great way of like getting into games, like looking at Let's Plays and stuff, because I think that's really such a helpful way. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming by. Stick around, ladies and gents, because we got more Gamescom 2018 coming at you right after this.